What up? What up? Good evening. 2nd of September. Welcome to another episode of Water for the Thirsty. We are here today with Courtney, Lorraine, and Jerome. We're expecting the bishop and the others in a little bit. How it's go on a Friday evening sometimes. We're here chopping it up to discuss the word simply, the word refreshing, using our Bible reading plan. Since the last time we met, we read a little bit of Matthew, a little bit of Hebrews, a little bit of Hosea, a little bit of Psalms, a little bit of Kings and Chronicles, as the reading plan has directed us. And tonight we're here to chop it up. Um, I've had a good time rereading Hebrews and Hosea. Um, God looks different to me in Hosea this time around. I don't know if I don't know if I could do what he said in the Hosea in chapter 3, verse 1. I was asking Courtney. I'm gonna bring that question to Jerry as well. Hosea 3:1. Could you do that?
Woof. That's tough, man. That's maybe not knowingly.
Or I'm gonna ask it of Lorraine. Could you do that?
He,
I can't hear you, Lorraine.
All right, can you hear me now?
I can hear you
yeah.
now. Hosea 3:1, Kenrick question is, can you do that? Lorraine's answering, but we coming to you next.
I don't know what the question is.
Hosea 3:1, could you do that?
Like as they continue or after they stop?
Let me hear what your version, how your version reads,
I
right?
can't do any
How your
Hosea.
version reads it.
I feel you can, Rick. It's like, nah.
Laurie, let me hear your version. What's your version say? What's the axe there in your version?
It says, "Then the Lord said to me, Go and love your wife again, even though she cometh up with another lover." This will illustrate that the Lord will still love Israel, even though the people have turned to other gods and love to worship.
Mhm. My version says, go show love to your wife again, though she is loved by another man and is an adulteress. As
Yeah. Jared, you remember that whole experience of Gideon when he's like, make the feast wet and the ground is dry. Okay, make it dry and the ground is wet. If I got it like that, then I'm probably gonna fall in line, but I need to know I know that I know.
I made a statement once. I need the angel Gabriel to come down and tell me the Lord said what you need to do.
Oh man.
so let's
So so let me ask you, what so Jerry,
Was
why
it Jared or Jerry?
Jerry,
Uh-huh.
why wouldn't you do it? Why would you need all of that confirmation?
Um
That's your wife. Why would you need all that confirmation?
does your wife know?
my wife no, but remember the thing is he was basically given an instruction to go find this woman who is how she is,
Well,
marry her, and then also although she keeps messing around, go back.
so
Are you hurt because she's messing around on you? Are you hurt because you're embarrassed? Like
No, but that's the
where does
thing.
it
If
come
if
from?
it was a case where so my thing is less the go back and more about the go get her to begin with. So it's like God is telling you go to the bunny ranch and pick this one and marry her, and I'm like, I need to know that I know that I know, dude.
so to be fair to Hosea and even myself, he said go marry one. He didn't say go marry this one.
Right.
Hosea chose this one.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
but
He was
okay.
like, he was
I
I
like,
would
pick
never
one.
understood it
I
that
would
way.
do. I just need to know that that is definitely his calling
Oh,
on
so
my life.
I can choose her?
Yeah, you get to pick one. Yeah.
Kendrick is like, well, all right.
The one that you will forgive, the one that you'll go back for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that. Do you think that makes a difference? Like, if 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 that's the one you wanted, then are you a little bit more forgiving? You're a little bit more tolerant.
That is messed up. Oh my
I
god.
guess the thing is, like, when I think of it about, so if I think of it from my wife, right? So I think it from Jewel. I think it's less about the act and more about me not trying to be played.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Right? Not how I look to everybody else. Like, you're gonna keep taking this chick back and shoot everybody. Like, I think all of that plays a role in it. If it was done in secret, like, and no one knew about it, and this is just something, a battle that me and her are going through, I think it will be much easier for me to take her back and deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
as difficult as it would be. But if it's public, right? Which I get the same correlation. Like, this whole thing is public from God's perspective, right? Everybody knows who the children of Israel are. Everybody knows, about their relationship and who God is. Their God is, right? The stories and all that, and we've all of it's been very clear and plain. Um, it has to be public. I think the publicness of it makes it difficult.
What about that line there, though? Though she is loved by another man.
I don't
Yeah,
buy that.
You don't think that makes a
like
difference?
whatever she did, she got him. Okay, let me behave.
So this is
Oh,
Those
why not?
dudes don't love her, man. They don't love her. No, come on, man.
But
so
maybe,
Come
you
on, man.
maybe
know,
you
a
see the
relationship
seamless
is like
relationship over there.
They don't love her, dog.
so you're saying it's more like a relationship versus like a one-off situation. Like they're
It,
actually
what's the love? What's the love? And you have the Bible study tools up?
Yeah. Courtney, what version you have there?
I have NLT, and I'm over here looking at a King James version right now. So he's talking.
I'm gonna pull it
so
up.
Kendrick,
I'm
I
trying
think
to
it's
figure out, is the other lover a neighbor? Like,
to that neighbor.
yeah,
So King James version says,
her friend.
beloved of her friend.
Beloved of her friend.
Yes,
Homie love her
the word
friend.
there is to have affection for sexually or otherwise.
Mm.
Friends with benefits.
But which
Yeah.
sounds like this isn't just this is a relationship that she's gotten herself into,
Me
right?
too, yeah.
No, that's not a relationship. That's a homie lover friend. That's not a. I can't say that on this.
I mean,
We got 30. But
no, but
anyway.
Kendrick, in context, it has to be because remember, God is mirroring how Israel is behaving and these relationships they've gotten themselves into with false gods and all that. It's not just a one-off thing; it's a perpetual problem where they just keep.
Correct, but I guess that's my point, is that those other things don't love them. Like, they're not in, like, it's them constantly going to them. Those other things aren't loving them,
Well,
right? It's the person. It's us. It's the children of Israel. It's all of that. Like, constantly whoring and prostituting themselves out, and was it Jeremiah was somewhere where it was like they ain't even getting money now. Like, it's not even, they're not even getting paid for it.
Yeah.
Right? It's just it's them going out. It's not necessarily them being loved by the people that they're going out to. That's how I understood it.
So going out to those who don't love them as much as the husband does.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it doesn't love them as much as the husband does. And
Well, God loves where they're prostituting ourselves to people that don't really care about
take
us as he does.
what you have, but don't really care too much about you.
Right.
Is there significance of it saying in King James it says to go take a woman? So it's not even, I know some versions said the wife, but in this one it says the woman. And I'm just looking at my summary. It's basically saying that it's not, rather than wife, she had broken the covenant and had no claim on him. So she had forfeited her right to his love.
Yeah, just
So she forfeited it, and he's like, go and get her.
but he's like, go show love to her again, though. Like,
Yeah.
suck it up
Yeah.
and take all that on. Take all that, but
and he had to buy her.
But they didn't have monkeypox and all that and STDs back then.
Of
Yeah,
course
I'm
they
sure they did. I'm
He
sure
had
They
to
did.
buy back too.
I'm
They
sure
did it.
They didn't
The
refer
Bible
to it.
never said. The Bible only said they have leprosy.
All skin diseases at that time. was leprosy.
Check out Leviticus where they give the instructions of how to treat with
And
certain things, and
boils.
you realize some of the things they're treating with have to be STDs. I'm
Yeah,
just
leprosy was a blanket term for anything that show up on your skin.
yeah.
So you get the clap, and that's leprosy. It's all one thing.
But he had to buy her back for 15 pieces of silver as well. And
On top of you
some
understand?
barley and some wine.
He gonna need all that wine.
Yep.
So, honestly though, I think the public part wouldn't be as much of a big deal.
For you,
I think it's just I think it would be the person's attitude towards what they've done that would have been the hindrance. Like if they are doing it and they genuinely just don't care that they're doing it, that's where my difficulty would come from.
Mhm.
So if it's something that
You're a much better
happened,
person than I.
if it's something that happened and there was genuine, once again, I
Like
think we had
remorse or
this
something.
before, but like remorse and feeling something that shows like you regret your actions or anything, if that would make it easier. It would make it more difficult if you keep carrying on and you just.
That's
Now, to Jared's point though, like so the first but if you're told, not knowing anything, if you go out and get this person, do you go?
Right. So you're getting them while they're doing what they're doing.
While
still.
they're doing it first time.
Nah.
yeah, but 3-1 is the comeback.
The second time.
Yeah, 3-1 is the second, is another time. Is after they came in, you went and you find ones like, yeah, I like that one. She could work, maybe. Yeah. All right. She come, all right, we make 3 children, and then she go on again.
Yeah.
Right? And God is like, yeah, go and love her again.
Crazy.
That's not remorse there. That's not remorse there, Lauren. That's not.
Okay, but if you sign up for that in the beginning, knowing the person is like that way, you can't really be mad that they're carrying on the way they've been carrying on. That's just my logic. That's my logic. If you knew what
That's
you were
your
getting
logic?
in the beginning, you knew this about this person. So you can't, that's like people are saying, oh, he's going to change or she's going to, chances are not going to change. They're going to be the same person they've been from the beginning. So if God asked you to get married to this person and you want to go get married to this person, best believe this person could very well continue the same behavior they've been carrying on with from day one.
Is God not expecting the people to change?
I mean, but you can't assume that person is going to become somebody totally different.
Like, no, not become somebody totally different to start caring about you.
Yeah, they could care about you and still carry on though. There's people that do stuff.
Super facts.
So the way this story is written, right, appears to be written.
Mm-hmm.
God is telling you, go by the other man's house. Go by the other woman's house.
Mercy.
And bring her back from there. Love on her. Go over there and make a scene, Go over there and
love on her and not the person that was under. Let me stop.
You said love on her and what?
And bring her back.
Love on her, but not the person she with. So I don't have to tell that to him.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I received that technicality there. Yeah, that is an amazing amount of humility and regard for the other person, and for that relationship. I would say for that relationship to be able to do that. And if that is what God is actually doing, then that's a big deal.
But I guess that's the thing. Like, so let me ask this from your perspective. Do you look at yourself like when you do something wrong? Do you look at it as if you're committing adultery against God? I
Well,
guess that's
I know I didn't, but I know that that's how he sees it. So I am
correct.
trying to take on those lenses, but I know
We don't see it that way,
no, we
right?
don't. No.
We don't look at it from through those lenses. Typically, I'm not saying all. Some may. I don't. Um,
You know what also blew me in this, in line of what you're saying, Kenrick? Chapter 2, verse 16. In that day declares the Lord, you will call me my husband. You will no longer call me my master or my Lord. Right? When it suggests that he is looking for a shift in the relationship. Like he has that hope for the shift in the relationship. Because my Lord means, you're the one, this is the official title. This is the person I'm married to, but this is not like my boo, my babe, my darling. And we go in from having an official title where, I have respect for you, but now I have a different kind of love and affection for you. And he has that hope that one day you won't see me as just officially with you, but like, hey, that's my babes. I guess in our terms will be I'll no longer see you as my husband, but I'll see you as my baby or my darling or whatever. And that kind of relationship shift, seeing God as, and for me is now I won't just see God as abstract, father figure up in the sky kind of thing, but more, personal, real, with that kind of affection that that changes the way you interact with a relationship. Because if he's just your master, you're just doing the bare minimum because you respect him, you're doing it out of obligation. But if he's now your husband, there's a different kind of motivation to your actions.
there is, and but going back to Lorraine's point, as you're reading this and you're kind of thinking about it, like it does, like it. This is a little different in the relationship, right? So if if I would have known that Jewel had like a large body count, like there probably wouldn't there would have probably been some hesitation, especially if I like, right? And so at the end of the day, like we were born and shaped in iniquity. Like God knows that we have a body count. Jesus, like we going into it, right? And so I think that also helps to like the way he approaches us is much different than the way we approach relationships, right? I mean, I'm not saying everybody, but there's some people that if they know their spouse, man or woman, has a large body count, like it may cause a different angst in that relationship, right? Or at least the dating, or even whether or not they even start dating. Whereas Jesus and God in this particular situation is like he expects us to have a body count, and he's trying to win us from that, right? Which is almost like kind of this is like she has a body count, like this is who she is, right? This is she was, this is what she likes to do. This is what she's always done, and now I'm trying to save her from this. And so once again, I'm saying all that because I think it's still difficult for me to kind of get there, because I don't think I don't view standard relationships the same way as God is viewing this.
Hmm. Why not?
Because I don't know chick with a high body count, man. Like, like it just causes it's just that's just not
Mm.
I'm not trying
Right.
to hold it against her. Be like, yo, telling my girl like, don't be out there be like your mama. Like, that's not the way you should parent. These generational sins, like that's just not the way. Those aren't things that you should.
I hear you. I hear you.
So is that ideal then a husband should be that way? Like if, in terms of if this is God modeling or he's using our relationships to help us understand his love, right? I'm just saying, should a husband do that?
Well, that's the thing. Like he's using, but he's not even using like our ideal relationships. Like the way he even wants us to get into relationships, he's not even using that model.
Mhm.
He's using the model of like don't listen to anything I've already told you and
Yeah.
advised you about how to approach and deal with a relationship. This right here that's anti me, this is what I want you to do. Right? Because this is who you
because
guys are to me.
this is anti me, but it is me, right?
But it is me, correct. Yeah, so like this isn't even so no. So yes, if you're if you if if I marry Jewel and we got kids and Jewel starts doing this, then yes, I see that probably I shouldn't tell my kids don't be like your mama. Right? Like
But that's what
and
you said
I
here,
should
right?
and there's a conversation and that's the love that being demonstrated. But like if it's before, I don't think I'm gonna go down that path.
You wouldn't go. You would say, I want a good one.
Can't have a high body count. I don't know what good is. Good subjective, man.
You know that Harvard actually did research on that, right? I think it was like 25,000 other women that they reviewed, and those who either married their first partner or had only one or two partners had an 80 something percent likelihood of having a happy marriage, and it just all went downhill from there based on the numbers of bodies that they had. So like by the time they got to 6 to 12, they were down to like 29%.
Because of comparison. You start
Well,
having
it's
a
comparison, but it's also, one of the guys who was kind of irreverent, who was reviewing the data, said, at the end of the day, it's like, nobody wants, if you have, because they also did the same comparison with men. And while they did see a decrease in happy marriages for men as well, it wasn't nearly as stark. So by the time guys got to 6 to 12, it was like 70 something
Oh,
percent.
you were saying you're initially you were talking about women.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I missed that. Okay.
So one guy made the point. He's like, well, if you have a key that opens many locks, you call it a master key. But if you have a lock that's opened by any key, it's called a trashy lock, right? So
Wow. Wow.
kind of brutal.
Wow.
But I think the perspective I have on it is this. Generally, people live. There are only two ways to live life: purposeful, intentional action or reaction. And unfortunately, most of us are socialized to just react. So whatever life throws at us, if life gives you good stimulation, you react a particular way. Bad stimulation, you react a particular way. And I was talking with somebody just this week about, when the Bible says be sober and vigilant, the implication is to be in a constant state of sobriety and vigilance. Which sure we'll say, well, oh, that's why we shouldn't drink this or whatever. They're easy things to pick on. But sobriety and vigilance of mind is also impacted by how much sleep you get. I mean, water is a natural calming and focusing agent, blah, 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 blah. And the point of being sober and vigilant is so that you can make better choices proactively and act on things as opposed to an option presents itself and I'll do this, or what feels good in the moment, or because the setup happens that you get caught in these cycles of reaction all the time. And then you begin to despise yourself, despise your life, be remorseful, because all you're doing is really. And there are even times, I mean, it's like if you are a man and you had your heart broken by a woman, what most men do is they then chase every skill or whatever because they want to show that they don't. But even that is that they see as a random choice is still them just reacting. And so even having a high body count, what that is saying is at least for some period of time, you won't really being your best self. You would just, well, whatever feels good in the moment. But then the challenge is, especially in this day and age with social media and receipts and everything else, it kind of it kind of sticks with you, right? And I know some guys who there are places they will not go because now that they settle down and they married and they whatnot, they know if they only go that place, there'll be like 50 women who are like flicker because I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm sure there are women that, but what God is saying is, in using that example, is like, even when you were just in your constant reactive state, even when you were running up a body count, I would still come after you and I will bring you back and love you. Even when you were fighting against me, kicking and screaming and convinced, no, these drugs love me, no, these strippers love me, no, this loves me, I'm still. And that is, as much as it's compelling and awe-inspiring, it reminds me only God can be God. Because for me to go that, it's going to be, I have to do it, but it'll be tough though.
Yeah, this line in Hosea 2:14. Therefore now I'm going to allure her. I will lead her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her. I was like, dang.
Good. That's like, you come home and catch her in folly, and then you're like, let's go to Paris and make up. What?
Yes, exactly.
Literally, like,
Exactly.
But I guess that would be like the wooing process, right?
yeah, but it's
like get her to see that, look, like this is real. That's not real. This is real.
you know what came to mind when I was reading that, Jared? This whole thing about Jacob, where you grind it out for 7 years for the woman of your dreams, and then realize, put another 7 in. It's like, what?
But imagine the impact that has though for her.
Well, we would hope, right?
She realizes,
Maybe.
like,
And that's the thing, like Kenrick said, maybe, because suppose you're doing all of this, and I mean, look at how stubborn we are. Look at Israel in the wilderness, right? God is doing this over and over and over, and Israel is still like, nah.
But I mean, when it does hit you, like the level of dang, like he went through. Woo! Like I wouldn't have done it, but he did it for me. Like, okay.
I notice if you go to 5, he don't stay in that I will allure her and whatnot. He actually says for 5:14, for I will be like a lion to Ephraim and a great lion to Judah. I will tear them to pieces and go away. I will carry them off with no one to rescue them. But this was the line that was mind-blowing to me. Then I will return to my lair until they have borne their guilt and seek my face. In their misery, they will earnestly seek me. That kind of hit me in a certain way because it sounds like he's saying everything that I'm doing here is to get you to come around. So I'm gonna take you to Paris and fly you on the plane in hopes that you'll come around. I'm gonna cut you off, cut off your credit cards and leave you out there so that you'll come around. Right? But all of my actions
is in the
come around.
Out of love to get you to come around. And if you don't respond to the flying to Paris, then yeah.
But it's not just I'm out of wrath, but yes, I am angry. But I'm not just doing it so that you go feel pain.
Yep.
I'm doing it in hopes that the pain will cause you to come around.
Enter the prodigal son, right? So I'll give you your inheritance. You could go live, enjoy your life, and then when you end up eating with pigs, because living and enjoying your life with your inheritance wasn't helping you come around. So now that you're eating what the pigs are eating on, you get it now? Okay, good. Let's go.
Yeah. Is that intent though to come around, knowing that all of this is to try and nudge me back around? That is like what Lorraine's talking about. When that hits you, when that reality hits you, that the kind of gratitude and appreciation that you have changes the motivation for what you would do and what you won't do, right? Because now it's not just he don't like it, so I ain't gonna do it, right? It's more of, man, I owe him. I'm not indebted to him, but I owe him, and because of what he did, I ain't gonna never do that,
It's like Joseph said, right? How can I do this and sin against this great God, right? you get to a point where it's not about rules and regulations anymore. It's like, nah, that's my dude. I can't do my dude like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm tripping over the part of where God, if you're being the husband doing all of that, you know, I feel like there's so many illusions about what love is, like romantic love, that we are kind of fed. And this is, to me, showing something totally different. It's just like, this isn't just fall in love, captured by this love. You know, you just follow love. Like, this is determination, this will that I'm going to do this no matter what else is going on.
Yeah.
And I don't really care about all the people. Well, he does care about the people who watch it. He does seem to care about the people who watch him, but in spite of the people watching,
Yeah.
or maybe because the people are watching.
Right.
And when you know somebody loves you regardless of what you're doing, choosing to continue to love you, once again, at some point that's gonna hit you. Even if you
didn't that give you some freedom though?
That's what I was gonna say, Karen, because sometimes it makes you prone to, yes, it might hit you, but then it also makes you prone to take them for granted.
They gonna love me either way. Like, I mean, maybe I.
And then the person that's loving, isn't that a form of meekness, right? Like, you're going to sit there and endure all of that suffering.
That's what they call being a simp, right?
Yeah, right.
It's like, you just there, like,
yes.
They run in, you know, a riot, and you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know that God is just like, yeah.
No,
like
no,
none of
no,
the
I'm saying that is
like,
Clearly, in chapter 5, he wasn't like, yeah.
Right.
He's like, it's about to go down. But
yeah, it's about.
I could see where that kind of behavior could you know, make people feel they can take advantage of you because you know, whatever I do, I can come back and yeah, it's all good.
But I think that's like, you know,
divorce either.
What's that again?
I don't see them being interested in divorce in this regard either. I know that in Deuteronomy, you know, he talked about permitting divorce on some matters, but it seems like that's not what God is on. Like, he's not about divorce.
Yeah,
he's about letting you go your way, though.
Yeah.
Right. I say, if you want to go left, go
right.
left.
He 100% is, but I think there's like, you know, and I know it with me, there are times when you're just like,
What does that mean?
We can.
What does that mean?
We can figure this out.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just you know, if I'm 100% honest with myself, which I typically try to be, I do not view myself as the prostitute all the time. Like, because that's really bad. And you really shouldn't do that. Right?
It's not just prostitute, it's prostitute and adulterer. They're
well,
different.
Prostitute, adulterer, like, I'm using them in interchange. But yes, but like adulterer. In this situation, adulterer, right? Like, that's really bad. You really shouldn't do it. My stuff isn't really that deep. Right? And I think that's the way I view it at times. When I do go against God's will, it's not really, you know, we'll figure it out. This is a much smaller. Very rarely have I viewed myself as the adulterer. And I think that's the problem. Because even when you're looking at the story, you're like, we've judged her. We've determined who she is, right? And by determining who she is, we've also determined that we're not that, right? We're not that bad.
Different, right?
Yeah, it's different. That's bad.
If I go into work and it's my job, technically I'm not cheating, right? Because this is what I do for a living. This is my job. Technically. Technically, it's not really that bad. Like, it's not like I'm going out here for fun.
As long as you get a W-2 or a 1099.
I mean, how you think we paying for the cable? I think we paying for the cable. It's me.
Instead of W.
Then he didn't go buy his own wife. Then he hired her.
You guys.
So do you view it that way? Like you just
no,
go outside-
here's how I look at it. If I'm a guy going up on the street and I have I'm in some gang and my gang leader says you need to plug this one, plug that one, kill 4 people. How is that different than if you're in the army taking orders? Well, that is different because murder is the unlawful taking of life and the army has the right. Okay.
You in the core God country.
Yeah. Whew. But I mean, job or not is like the act is the act, right? So
I kind of was able to make the transition because faithfulness is faithfulness, whether it's adultery or not, right? The idea is faithfulness. So if we in a relationship and I start to engage in a relationship with somebody else, right, then that is unfaithful to this relationship. And so technically that
ends in something.
And so what you see with the people here is that they were worshiping other idols, which means that somebody else was given in direction, and now their loyalty was to something or somebody else, or something or somebody in addition, because they didn't just go and leave God altogether. They were still with him while being in this other thing with somebody else. And it wasn't exclusively him. And that's how, for me, it started to become more equivalent and how I started to see my actions in that regard. Because once somebody else is causing me to choose against this, now I'm being unfaithful to this, and then that is the equivalent there. So that's how I was able to start not seeing my stuff as just not so bad.
To stop seeing yourself as not so bad?
Yeah, not to stop seeing my stuff as not so bad. So you were saying that you don't.
So do you view yourself on the level as like?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I had to be honest, I would too, because the facts are facts, right? And the thing is, we have this hierarchy in our head, but it doesn't matter. What was scary to me is, it's like when God said, 6 things does the Lord hate, 7 are an abomination unto him, and he starts with a proud look, a lying tongue, feet that are quick to spread rumors, whatever. It's not the typical hierarchy of murder, adultery, whatever. Because in his mind, whatever you do, the price to pay for you to have forgiveness for it is the same. I had to die. So we're the ones who have this great hierarchy or whatever, but God is like, my penalty was the same. I still had to. So.
Yeah, and whatever it is you do that's not in line with what I want is in line with what somebody else wants. And if you have somebody else in my spot, if you elevating someone else in your to the same spot as me in this relationship, then you're not being faithful to me in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's to yourself. Right? And that was the issue with the idolatry, because whatever the idol is, whatever it is now making demands of you, and you know how to choose me or you.
First commandment, right?
Yeah.
What's that?
First commandment. That was before me, and that was the crux of what Adam and Eve did. It was this over. Like how Bizzle and these Christian rappers have this thing, God over money. With some people, it's whatever over God, right? And then it just goes downhill from there.
But yeah, man, that was me this week with Hosea, and the amazing posture of God, the amazing intent of God. Like the first couple of times I read this, it was all about how bad the people were and how awful they were and how much I was like them. But then this time around, it's how intentional is God? Wow. Wow. Is he doing that for me too? Oh my goodness. Now what should I do? Now what do I do? And so it was a little stark. Yeah. All right. So that was me.
No.
Lorraine had hit me in the week. She hit me in the week. It was bright and early one morning. She had a number of things that she wanted to process. And so I'm going to ask her to start with whichever she would
I
like.
don't even have my phone to tell you what I texted. It was just rolling in my brain, and I was like,
All right. What I'm going to do is for those, for us, for our purposes, and then, we will talk to the people. I will put it right here in the
okay.
chat. Everybody won't be able to see it right now, but we'll be able to cut and paste it. Oh, wow. It doesn't take all of it. Okay. It only takes a little bit at a time.
So I saw Matthew.
Oh.
So the first one was Matthew 28:17.
Yeah.
Then something from verse 11 to 15. And then
Same chapter?
Yeah. And then there's this one, which is a duplicate of what I have up there. You know what I want to deal with? Let's go with Hebrews 6:4. I'm gonna put that one up here now. Okay. Hebrews 6:4. Let's go with that one there first. I'm putting it up here now. So if we can read Hebrews 6:4, Courtney, if you got that for us.
Yeah.
And then Lauren, you can process your question.
Okay.
All right, I got it. For it is impossible to bring back to repentance those who were once enlightened, those who have experienced the good things of heaven and shared in the Holy Spirit.
Hi, Lauren.
So I mean, the question with that one was, why is it impossible? Is it really impossible, and why?
What does impossible mean?
For it is impossible to bring back to repentance those who were once enlightened.
I mean, it sounds like it can't happen.
Well, I don't know, because the definition I've seen of impossible, especially in this context, was it's not reasonable and it's difficult to be done.
So the word there for impossible is adunatos, which means unable, that is weak, literally or figuratively, passively impossible. The Bible usage is could not do, impossible, impotent, not possible, weak. Without strength, impotent, powerless, weakly, disabled, unable to be done, impossible.
Yeah, so it cannot happen. Let's go to success.
One of the places this word is used is Matthew 19:26.
I'm with you, Lorraine.
You said Matthew what?
19:26.
So if I interpret that, it was like, but Jesus looked at them and said, with people, it is weak.
No, it can't happen.
They are without, they are weak. But with God, all things are not weak.
All right. Let's add on another one. The same chapter, right? Just a further down. Let's go to 6:18.
Oh, back to
Hebrews
6.
Oh.
So notice in Matthew 19:26, it says, what? All things are possible with God?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it says, right?
Yeah.
Right, now let's go to Hebrews 6:18.
It was an amplified. Let me move back.
It says that by two immutable things in which it is impossible for God to lie, we might have strong consolation, who have fled for refuge to lay hold of the hope set.
Well, it's impossible for God to lie because it's impossible. You can't lie when you have everything. You control everything. Like you can't lie.
So cannot would be my definition of impossible. It can't happen.
But all things are possible with God, right? So which is it? Are all things possible, or is this impossible? It can't be both, can it? Or can it?
Oh Lord.
And if it can be, then what does it mean for the other thing?
I'd love to see where you go with this.
What was it, Matthew? What? I gotta go back.
Matthew 19:26. Oh, Mark 10:27 says the exact same thing. But with God, all things are possible. Would that be including lying?
Okay, so you always say go with context, right?
Yes, of course.
Well, there's context, as Laura first mentioned. There's a couple of things that we need to.
Of course. So let's do all of it.
Because it's like what the Bible says that, but what does it actually say, right?
Correct. Can he lie if he wanted to?
I want to say theoretically, yes, always completely out of character.
Well, ask it this way.
He 100% can lie, but we 100% can't lie because he can't lie.
Let me ask it this way. Let's not use the word can. Let's stay in the words possible and impossible. Is it possible
It is possible, yes.
for him to lie?
Yes.
All things are possible through Christ.
Yes.
But it's also impossible for him to lie.
Yes.
So both are true.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean?
So are you saying
He's that dude?
manager?
So the difference has to do with, for me anyway, and this is how I made sense of it. And so this is just my thought on it, right? This is not me trying to prove anything from the scripture. But having those two things be equal, the possibility exists means there's the ability to.
Right.
But because of who he is, he will not, and he is that resigned on it that it is impossible for him.
Gotcha.
He used the possibility to make it impossible for himself to do it.
No.
First of all, you
have choices, you have
I
choices
think-
to do things. Because you
we
have a
will all
choice,
need to be smoking something to understand.
because you have a choice, it makes something possible because you can choose. But if you've made a firm decision about something for yourself, that then technically makes it impossible.
He's saying like he's immovable and like immovable,
Movable on that matter.
right?
Yeah.
Like, rooted, like that
doesn't take away whether you're rooted or not. Does not take away the possibility. I guess that's
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So that's why we have to qualify the impossibility with it.
That's my. So just because you're rooted in something doesn't take away the impossibility. But however, the difference is when it is yours and you made it all, and you control not only what it is, but time, everything that goes along with it, then it is it's whatever it is, it is. So even if you don't, I can. The same thing the conversation we had with Pharaoh, right? Like, we can argue all day long, hard in his heart, but like, it doesn't matter. Like, it is what it is. Like, I'm God, I made you, I can do whatever I want to do. So I guess that's my thing. Like, sure.
But even his lie wouldn't be a lie because him just saying would put it into motion.
You can't lie if you're the benchmark.
It would happen. Like if he spoke, it would happen. So even
do you know how much of a curve that is? Like you're the curve.
So we have a couple of comments. Audrey says, because he is God himself, then that choice to lie is what he does not choose to do. This is what I would say. Yes.
That's what you were saying. I'm not 100% there.
Yeah. And then she said, or something like that.
She's not 100% there either.
But Isaac says, it is not possible for God to lie. The moment he speaks, it becomes
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
He is the
Perfect.
truth. He is the
Yes.
truth.
Yes. Paul Pierce.
But here's the thing about the word possible, right? That may be the issue for us in English, right? The possibility exists if
Among
I
so
can
many
make
other problems.
if I can make a choice, then the possibility exists. So
Right.
then technically it's possible,
If I
right? And that
can make a choice, the possibility, yes.
so then it's possible for me to do it, right?
Okay.
If it's not a choice that I will ever make, I can say that's impossible because I'll never make that choice,
Gotcha.
right? And then both things will be true, right? Now, that doesn't mean that the possibility doesn't exist. It means it's impossible because I will never make that choice, right? And that's a problem that English kinds of does to
But
us.
that's not well,
And
so
here's why I'm doing that, because what Lauren's question is about 6:4, right? The people can always make the choice to turn around. Manasseh did. The text is saying it's impossible for them to come because they're not going to make that choice. Not that it's not not that the option isn't there for them anymore.
But they just won't
They
make it.
won't make that choice.
it's
Which is
just
how, which is
the
how he
the
to
problem
close
the
off probation,
problem
right? Because he knows after this point, although you could choose, you won't.
is such a I guess
Right.
my problem, and I'm assuming I might be speaking incorrectly on behalf of Lorraine. My problem is that the statement is very definitive.
It was just as definitive. So there are two definitive statements.
So the
With
thing is
God,
so when you
all things are possible is a definitive statement.
was that again?
With God, all things are possible is a definitive statement.
Correct. But my thing is, my only problem is this: you're having a conversation about God, a singular being, right? You're now having a conversation where there's an infinite number of people that can fit into this category, and you're saying, and you're not giving any type of leeway, right? There's no variance anywhere. You're saying that everybody who fits into this category that once did this, that now did this, could never.
So no, because and here's why that's not what's being said. Because if we keep reading the text, everyone who's following online, we are in Hebrews chapter 6. Hebrews chapter 6.
Start at 4, right?
Roundabout verse 4. So because it's a complete thought it's not a complete thought, the thought is being expressed throughout the whole chapter, right?
And this is Bama Paul again. So
Well, that's what some people believe, but most contemporary scholars say it's probably not Paul because of the language and the structure of the Greek and whatnot. It's likely not Paul, right? Because it's inconsistent with the other styles of his writing. But the person is processing like Paul, and so that's what it makes us think it is Paul. But he goes on to say, let's start from 1, and we'll go through to at least verse 8. All right, because that's when he then transitions. Courtney, you want to get it, or you want me to do it?
I got you. 6-1.
6:1 to 8.
8.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let us stop going over the basic teachings about Christ again and again. Let us go on instead and become mature in our understanding. Surely we don't need to start again with the fundamental importance of repenting from evil deeds and placing our faith in God. You don't need further instructions about baptisms, the laying on of hands, the resurrection of the dead, and eternal judgment. And so, God willing, we will move forward to further understanding. For it is impossible to bring back to repentance those who were once enlightened, those who have experienced the good things of heaven and shared in the Holy Spirit. You have tasted the goodness of the word of God and the power of the age to come, and who then turn away from God. It is impossible to bring such back to repentance by rejecting the Son of God. They themselves are nailing him to the cross once again and holding him up to public shame. When the ground soaks up the falling rain and bears a good crop for the farmer, it has God's blessing. But if a field bears thorns and thistles, it is useless. The farmer will soon condemn that field and burn it.
Yeah. So I think that imagery that Paul, that the writer of Hebrews uses, helps to contextualize his statement, right? The rain keeps falling on the land, and this land is being blessed to experience this rain. And you know what's happening? Instead of bearing fruit, it's now bearing thorns. And it keeps happening over and over and over again. After a while, it becomes set in its rejection of it. It's the same parable of the tree that wasn't bearing any fruit, even though the man was, planting and fertilizing it, and he wanted to chop it down. The man was like, let's cultivate it a little bit more. It's not doing what it's supposed to do, and I wouldn't say choosing at this point, but because we're talking about people here, and this is illustrated about people, these people have made this choice that they're not responding to it. Instead of the thing affecting them to bring forth this fruit, it's bringing forth these thorns and thistles. And it's so deep rooted that it's not changing them. So while they technically could, possible, and that's why English is a confusing language, because impossible is not technically the opposite of possible. Right? It's not technically, it is, but it isn't. Not technically, depending on the context in which you use it, which is what makes it confusing.
No, we use the same thing. I mean, there are times when we say that's impossible to do when somebody does it. So yes, yeah, I'm with you.
Or that's possible, but I would never. So that makes it impossible. Right?
In theory, yes.
In theory, right?
It sounds like for the people, it sounds like they're incapable of being influenced by feelings, like you were saying.
Yeah. They're not going to come back any further because of how far they have gone. So what the author is not saying is that they no longer have the power to choose. They're just no longer going to make that choice because they have become so set.
But
They become so set in their position and in their way. And that's why I brought the one with the line of God down, because while technically it's possible, because of who he is and how set he is in his way, that's not something he will ever do, which makes it impossible. I would agree with everyone, he is the truth, so that also makes it impossible. But because the author is using the same word to describe God and these people in the same sentence, you now have to figure out, well, how can both be true? Because it's not like the people's choice is removed.
Correct.
But their heart is hardened, right? So it's not like they won't choose to exercise the choice.
Correct. Which then technically is a true statement to say
for them.
Yes, it's impossible for them because they will never make the choice.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why I went the way with God, right? Because it helps to show it from the other side.
But it's saying, it doesn't sound like it's saying some. It's saying anyone, at least how I'm reading it, anyone who's been enlightened, who's experienced, once they've gone right, they're not coming back.
So I'm
not gonna choose to come back, and that's what is stuck for me. Like,
so
I'm with you,
makes
Lorraine.
the statement and then expounds on it in the illustration.
Yeah, the illustration is what changes, what gives context to the statement. If the
Correct.
statement is given by itself, that's what I'm saying. I was 100% with you. You're by yourself now.
I mean, break it down. That's what I'm saying. Make it make sense for me.
No. But the illustration is what provides the color to the statement, right? Because in the illustration, oh shoot, it just went out.
6, 7.
The illustration states that when so now, when you're saying is like, that's not fair. Like, my comment to Jared was like, it's including everybody, saying no one could ever, who's been in this situation, could never repent, right? Even if they've gone, they started here, they were great, they ended up here, and they can never get back to great. Is how I read the statement,
Right.
right? However, the illustration of the ground, when the ground soaks up the falling rain and bears a good crop for the farmer, it has God's blessing. But if a field bears thorns and thistles, it is useless, right? Even then, it's a little suspect. The next line is the farmer will soon condemn the field and burn it, which means that at some point, the only way he's going to condemn the field is if it just continues to repeat itself and growing the thorns and thistles. Like it just never stops growing thorns and thistles. And he's like, at this point, I got to cut my losses, condemn the field, and move on to somewhere else.
That's making
So
no
that's what I'm
attempt
saying.
to
The
come
color,
back.
that line right there gives color to everything else that came before it. If that makes sense.
Okay.
And then in my mind as well, remember, God sees past, present, future all as one dynamic. Time is not a construct he's bound by. So he knows who's going to utilize their choice and who's not. So if he realizes, look, I know this is the way they're going to be, then he can safely say, okay, door is shut and no one can open it. And it's not that he is shutting the door, he is merely now responding to the choice that we have made. We have decided to be stuck in this way, so this is the natural outcome of it.
One of the things that I will push back just to modify your statement a little bit is that throughout the Bible it says God rewards everyone according to their works.
Gotcha.
So to that end, while he may know, he's letting you bear it out so that your works demonstrate what he already knows.
Yeah.
He's not just going on the benefit of knowing.
Of his knowledge, yeah.
So you still have to make the choice, and then he's going to say, yeah, I knew that was going to happen, but here it is, you did this.
Yeah.
I didn't just say it was going to happen. You actually did it. And here was every opportunity you had to do something else that you didn't do.
Yeah.
So it's not just he knows, because people could change their minds. They do have that freedom of choice, right?
Yeah.
Manasseh was a bad king for 50 years. At that point, he was only bearing thorns and thistles.
Yeah, he was. His field was condemned.
His field should have been condemned, but he made a choice near to the end.
Yeah.
Right? And as long as you have life, you can have a choice. And I think that's one of the points that Jesus was making in, I think it's Luke chapter 12. He was like, those people are dead, but you still alive. Organize your business.
So take that and talk to what Lorraine's saying, because now you're kind of, I won't say backtracking.
No, I see that's the same thing, because these people have made all these choices that this is how they're staying.
Yes.
And it's like, to your point, and I'm glad you raised that, Jared, he has to let it play out, because if he doesn't and he's just going on what he knows, then it also makes it seem like predestination, right? Like,
correct.
Because I know this.
You didn't have a choice in the matter.
Right. So it's like, no, use all the choices you want. When it's done, you will see that, yep, this was all on me. Which is why every knee will bow, every tongue will confess that, yeah, this was me.
Yeah. Does that make sense, Lauren? Does that help you?
Mm-hmm. It does.
Remind me though, Jared, afterwards I want to ask a question about something out of Auntie Ellen's writings.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk about Auntie Ellen a little bit.
Special.
I just had asked earlier, what about the verse that says God isn't a man that he should lie? And I did share the verse, Numbers 23:19. It says he doesn't lie and he doesn't repent, so he doesn't change his mind and them kind of things. So yes, I wanted to round this out by saying that no point were we saying that God could or would ever lie. I was just trying to use that as illustrations for how we understand possible and impossible, and they're not just in how we use them in English. They don't necessarily mean what we want them to mean, depending on the context in which we're using it, right? So I will firmly stand with everyone who says it's impossible for God to lie. He cannot lie. He is the truth. He isn't a man. He doesn't lie, right? But the word possibility means that there's a chance from the standpoint that it could be done, not that it would be done. And that impossible could also mean that it won't be done, not that it can't be done.
Correct.
Right? And that's all I was trying to point out. And I thought it would be helpful to use the God thing to make that comparison and make that point. Not ever to debate whether God could lie or not. I wasn't where we were going with it. All right. So that was one down, Lauren. Before I go to the rest on your list, I want to get Kenrick a chance to.
Well, I'm good. I'm good.
All right. And Courtney? Don't tell me you're good, because I know you're in the wood and you have a notebook full of notes. I just be with you on Saturday and I'll be like, he sit down there and say he didn't have nothing last night, and then open up the book and give a whole dissertation the next day on Saturday afternoon. I'm like, bro, wait, where was that yesterday? So,
man, sometimes Friday night thoughts. Sometimes, man, you know what I mean?
So we can wait for that on Friday for Saturday. All right.
Yeah, man.
That's the new name, Friday Night Thoughts.
Yeah. Wake up Sabbath
how we
morning, like, I see something.
I tell you take a question there. Jerry, you'll take a question. Yeah. Am I mute?
No, he think he might have meant after dark, but I don't know.
No. I'm good. Serious.
No, Jerry, did you mean?
Oh, Jerry. Oh,
yeah. Afterwards. Yeah.
After dark. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sure the people online will. I want to know that question.
I think we should do it. It's after 9.
Yeah, it's after 9, Jerry. Give it up. So just be fair to the other people who sit in there going like,
WFT uncut.
We're doing Levi.
Oh, you all listen. Nah, we leave it for afterwards. I don't wanna
All right, so here what I will say, right?
give indigestion to anyone.
If you're on and you really want to know what Jerry want to ask after we're done, shoot me a message and we will see how we can bring you in the room afterwards. So
that defeats the whole purpose. He might as well say it
like,
now.
yeah, when all done, I go on to bed. I just like good. So, yeah. Anyway, Lauren, back to you.
Okay, we could do the everyday one.
All right, which one is that?
3:13.
Hebrews 3:13. All right.
Since we were in Hebrews already.
Hebrews 3:13.
All right, and then Courtney, you got the verse, and then Lauren, you'll go ahead and ask your question.
You must warn each other every day while it is still today, so that none of you will be deceived by sin and hardened against God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was your video. Mine was longer.
Context.
Read yours, Lauren.
Mine was saying continually encourage one another every day, as long as it is called today, and there is an opportunity, so that none of you will be hardened into settled rebellion by deceitfulness of sin, its clever, delusive glamour, and sophistication.
All right. What's the question?
So the everyday thing, like when he was like, warn each other every day. Do we really warn each other every day? Like, I guess he's trying to show urgency. And I guess it goes back to that, those who've been enlightened and have gone, like if we had been warning every day, would they have gotten that far?
Based on, I'll answer the second one first. Based on the illustration, probably. Remember, it's the same rain falling on the land.
Okay.
They was receiving all the blessings, all the experience, and it wasn't changing them to produce a crop. Instead, it's produced thistles. So they almost ignored it didn't.
Like, do we do this every day? Do you guys do this every day? Or is every day every day? Maybe that's is every day really every day?
No, in my mind, it comes down to what do you define as warning, right? Sometimes the warning isn't verbal. It isn't don't do this, don't do that. Sometimes the warning can come from the lifestyle you live, from how you befriend the person, how you encourage them, how you water for the thirsty with them. It doesn't have to be this, you know, overt kind of like hit you over the head with something. So like I'll give you a quick example. As a buddy of mine I bumped into recently, and he said one of the most impactful things to his Christian journey was when he decided to go to therapy.
But when he decided to do what, therapy?
Go to therapy, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there are lots of people who think, well, if you're a Christian, all you need is Bible 24/7, right? And the Bible is a big part of it, but if you need therapy, you need therapy. And in understanding who you are, why you are, what makes you tick, it can actually help you, uncover and become who you were made to be, right? So being warned doesn't, in my mind, just come down to do's, don'ts. It could be. That's like how the Bible says, pray without ceasing. You have to be in that mind set of open and constant communication to and with God. It's not that you have to necessarily physically kneel all day, and you know what I mean. At least that's the way I look at it.
No, so the Amplified says, but continually encourage one another every day. Going back to what you originally said, it's not necessarily so. Warn, based upon how we understand warn, and continually encourage are two different.
Yeah.
Right.
Sides of the spectrum, or ends of the spectrum.
King James says exhort. So strongly encourage or urge someone to do something.
I was gonna say I don't know what exhort is, but okay, so strongly encourage.
Yeah, the word there is parakaleo, which the Bible uses is to beseech, to call for, to comfort, desire, to exhort, to entreat, to pray. The Strong's definition is to call near, to invite, to invoke, by imploration, quotation, or consolation. So it's to call to one side, to call for to someone, to address, to speak to, which may be done in the way of exhortation, entreaty, comfort, or instruction, to admonish, to exhort, to beg, to entreat, to beseech, to console, to encourage and strengthen by consolation, to comfort, to receive consolation, to be comforted, to encourage, to strengthen, to instruct, to teach, comforting and encouraging.
Okay, so it's in various forms. Then.
What if we attach another verse to that, like Matthew 7:5?
Matthew 7:5.
And that's the verse about
7:5. The plank in your eye.
Yeah.
That was overt.
Make that connect for me, Courtney.
Because it says you remove it from your own eye, then you'll see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. So the part of removing the speck is like he didn't tell you not to help to remove the speck from your brother's eye. He just said to make sure you remove yours first.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just the daily thing, like that. If you're helping someone remove the speck from their eye.
Yep. But you realize, to your point, Courtney, how much you being right is necessary to do that properly. Otherwise, you could make a mess of it, right? Because I know Bible thumpers. I mean, heck, I was one of them. Where they read this thing in was it Isaiah or Jeremiah? Where God's like, "Behold, I've set you as a watchman to the house of Israel. If you warn the wicked of his ways, and he doesn't listen, and he dies in his sin, his burden is on his own head." Blah blah blah. And so some of us think we need to go around and beat people with the Bible because I don't want you to die in your sin. And okay, but again, it's the example. The Bible tells you what to do. and Jesus is the example of how to do it, right?
Right.
And it's like when you see how he approached those things, it wasn't
And
throwing
then
money at people.
and then the other thing is that I think it was the point was made, um, and we saw the examples, and even when Jared read, all the different ways, all those ways um, are part of relationships, right? And part of
Correct.
living in, Jared's word, living in community,
Mhm.
right? You're gonna get all of that. You're gonna be chastised. You're gonna be encouraged. You're gonna be consoled.
Yep.
You're like all of those things are going to exist in relation with somebody else when you're in relation with somebody else. And so part of what they're doing is just like you're just living,
Yep.
right? And you're just going through life with people. And as you go through life with people, and not only that, you're going through life with people, but those people are also going through life with you. And
Mhm.
so it's you're going back and forth, and it's just that community and that relationship that is the encouragement, that is the warning. It's all of that,
So
right?
like
That
that iron
exists.
sharpening iron kind of thing.
Iron
Mhm.
sharpening iron. You're both looking at each other and trying to take the plank out of your eye, because the whole thing is like with the plank in your eye, like you know you see the plank in your eye, and it's you realize that it's so much bigger than the little speck that's in somebody else's, right?
Yep.
And so it actually gives you perspective. But all of that's done in relationship. And so when you're in relationship with others, um, then you have the ability to do all that, and all of that strengthens you, right, and encourages you, and gets you through tough times, hard times. You enjoy good times, all that kind of stuff.
So another thing that kind of stood out was it sounded like don't push it off, like don't wait. So like um where it says as long as it's today.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you could be like, oh yeah, I'll tell him. We'll talk about it. It's like, well, you might not have tomorrow, so today's all you got. So when it when I've moved you to go say or go hug or go whatever, go do it that day, that moment. Don't push it off till later because you might not have later. They might not have later.
Right. I would add on the verse before and the verse after,
Mm-hmm.
or the verses after. See to it, brothers and sisters, that none of you has a sinful, unbelieving heart that turns away from the living God. Hebrews 3, verse 12. And then it goes, but encourage each other, one another daily, as long as it is today, so that none of you may become hardened by sin's deceitfulness.
Mhm.
So it's as you go, as you're walking on a day-to-day basis, try to stay on the right path by encouraging each other as a group. Try to stay together as a group and make sure you're doing this thing to encourage each other so that you don't get plaque and I don't get plaque. You check in my plaque, I check in your plaque, so we don't get hardened by sin's deceitfulness. And we have to do it constantly, or else I don't know how much of you, mining grass in the back. And then you kill out one set of weeds and you think you're good and you go away for a week and you come back and you're like, where this thing just come from? And you almost had to be out there almost every day looking to see what's springing up because things to spring up. So I think that's part of it. Additionally, my Bible has a little cue by the word daily, and it has a reference to Hebrews 10, 24 and 25, which kind of, to me, helps to unpack what he's advocating because he makes this almost the same call, but using different words. And I think he unpacks it a little bit more in Hebrews 10, 24 and 25. But I'm going to go back to 23. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may encourage one another daily, or spur one another on towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some is in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another all the more as you see the day approaching. So it's that continual process of doing this, not taking any days off, but always be on top of it and making it a part of how you live every day.
So then I think it's good as Christians for us to be in community together, in church.
Indeed. I'll also say I've been looking at the verse in Bible Gateway has a thing where you could see the verse in all the English versions, and there's a whole list of them here.
Yeah.
And almost all of them have NLT is the only one that uses the word warn. All the other versions use exhort or encourage. Exhort or encourage. NIRV says build. NLV says help. YWC says admonish. But the only one that uses the word warn is NLT, which to me speaks to just as Bible commentators talking about reading other versions, because how we translate in English, the idea that's being presented gets clarified as we read more than one version. So one person adds this word and another person uses this word, another person gets this word, then we can almost smush them all together and say, okay, this is the general idea that's being communicated here.
Yeah, I think it's interesting with that, in the sense to saying like encouraging us not to settle in a state where we're only considering our own self-care. Like instead of just being interested only in selfish care for ourselves, we should be paying attention to, those around us.
Yeah. Yep. Word. Hi, Lauren.
So you can only do you don't have to do that just in church community though, right?
No.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be. So I would say this: it's community wherever you find it.
Right. I just think that that's maybe an example of a community where that should be going on.
Whatever community you're in, those are the things that should be taking place.
Right.
So if I have like 4 wives and 20 children, like I could still.
Yeah.
I would suggest. I would recommend that it be other people besides
Outside of that community. Okay. All right. I'll let them know.
Yeah. You and your family should be connected with some other family somewhere.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Lauren, we're knocking them out.
We can try Matthew.
Matthew 28 or Matthew.
How many did you have, Lorraine?
Look, they were flowing in my brain and I was just texting. I was like, I hope Jared is still sleeping and he's not getting any of these right now because it was a ridiculous hour of
Matthew 28, you have 11 to 15.
Yeah, and then
17.
And then 17.
We could do 17 first because that might be quicker. That one might be quicker.
All right, Matthew 28, verse 17.
Yeah, so it was and when they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted that it was really he, right? And then my simple question was, you always hear about Thomas. Like, you know what I mean? I never hear, at least I never noticed that other disciples doubted that it was really him.
You know what I found to be interesting, Lorraine? Oh man. If we go to the end of Mark.
Okay.
No, not Mark. Luke. The end of Luke.
Okay.
That's Luke chapter. Yes, Luke. The end of Luke.
24.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, from verse 36. Courtney, go ahead, read there. Please.
I got you. Let me
Courtney knew what was coming.
yeah, I was looking at the actual physical Bible in my hand.
Mm.
All right, I got it. Uh, right. And just as they were telling about Jesus, just as they were telling about it, Jesus himself was suddenly standing there among them. Peace be with you, he said. But the whole group was startled and frightened, thinking they were just seeing a ghost. Why are you frightened? He asked. Why are your hearts filled with doubt? Look at my hands. Look at my feet. You can see that it's really me. Touch me and make sure that I am not a ghost, because ghosts do not have bodies, as you see I do. For as he spoke, he showed them his hands and his feet. They stood there in disbelief, filled with joy and wonder. Then he asked them, do you have anything here to eat? They gave him a piece of grilled fish, and he ate it as they watched.
All right, that's good. So I guess the thing I was trying to illustrate was Matthew wrote and said they all doubted. Luke wrote and said they all doubted. Mark touches it a little. Let's see what Mark says. So let's read Mark 16. I know this part they say was added afterwards, but it's still here in our Bible, so we'll go ahead and read it. We go in Mark 16, from verse, let's go from verse 9. Mark 16 from verse 9.
After Jesus rose from the dead early on Sunday morning, the first person who saw him was Mary Magdalene, the woman from whom he had cast out 7 demons. She went to the disciples, who were grieving and weeping, and told them what had happened. But when she had told them that Jesus was alive and she had seen him, they didn't believe her. Afterward, he appeared in a different form to 2 of his followers who were walking from Jerusalem into the country. They rushed back to tell the others, but no one believed them. Still later, he appeared to the 11 disciples as they were eating together. He rebuked them for their stubborn unbelief, because they refused to believe those who had seen him after he had been raised from the dead. And then he told them, go into all the world and preach the good news to everyone. Anyone who believes and is baptized will be saved, but anyone who refuses to believe will be condemned. These miraculous.
To pause there. So 3 of the 4 Gospels are saying what?
Some of them doubted.
They doubted.
So if we're only hearing about Thomas, why we think that is?
Because he never wrote the Gospels.
He didn't get to tell his side of the story.
He didn't get to tell his side of the story.
So John is the one who writes about Thomas. John is the one who tells that story. Right? But he's the only one who singles out Thomas. All the other gospel writers talk about them as a collective. 3 of the 4 describe the group being in doubt. Yet Thomas's story is the one we remember. What does that say or mean or suggest? If Thomas is the one that sticks with us, why do you think that is?
Because of the statement Jesus made to him.
Or just because of the way John put it out. So I don't know, maybe John was Thomas's mentor, and he's like, this dude just isn't listening. I don't know.
Or it was the one that Jesus formally responded to.
Maybe John was the one
that there was an interaction that was
I think
documented.
it's a faith.
John was there. He had the first saying.
That sticks in our mind.
But that's my thing. I don't know that Jesus singled them out. It seemed like people were doubting, and he said
No,
to
no,
them,
Go ahead.
like, come see the nail prints in my hands, whatever. John is the one who, it seems like, singled out Thomas as the one who.
That's what I'm just saying. I'm just saying it was just documented from like a personal, an individual encounter as opposed to grouped in. That's the only thing I can think of.
There are a couple of things. One of them could be that John, in writing his gospel, because he was there, singled out Thomas, even though Thomas may have been the one who was reflecting reflecting the beliefs or the feelings of everyone else. Sometimes everybody feels that way, but Thomas is the one who said it out loud, right? He said what we were all thinking, right?
And just for the record, in the Chosen, outside of Matthew, I mean, Thomas is a little, I don't know if that plays a role in it either, but
I would agree with you. But then here's the other piece. Thomas's story is told not just by John, but by teachers and preachers and elders and whatnot. The fact that we not really aware that the other three gospels say it wasn't just Thomas is an indictment, I would think, on us. Because
lazy.
Yeah, if we were reading, we would have that awareness and would filter the story about Thomas through the lens of the other three gospels that said it was them, not just him.
Sure.
So it kind of reveals how we get our information about the Bible and what things impact us and why. Is it through our own study, or is it through what's popular? And what's popular maybe because this becomes more rich, right, for storytelling.
Or is it even, so that's a really good point. Or is it even like our study, quote unquote, is shaped by, like, the way we read is still shaped by what we hear.
Correct.
So, we still read, right? But, just like anything else, if you're told something over and over and over again, you read with that lens.
Yep.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why when I saw her question, I was like, so why do we only hear about Thomas? I was like, well, that's not quite true. We don't only hear about Thomas. We hear about them. But if we are hearing about Thomas, it's not because that's what the Bible is painting.
Right. But most times when we, like I said, when we're talking about it, at least every time I've heard the story or any discussion, it's always he doubted, and it said, "Blessed are those who didn't see." And
well, it's doubting Thomas, right? I mean, it's
right.
it's kind
right.
of.
And we always like to put a face to something, right? We had to give it a character. We put
Don't
on
be
the
like
Thomas.
Yeah. Believe.
Thomas took the L for the rest of them.
Yeah, for the rest of us.
Yeah, he was the mascot for doubting. And he might have just been the one who was brave enough to say, yo, I don't believe. They were all like, yeah, me neither, but I ain't saying nothing.
Yeah, but I ain't saying that, yeah.
Because clearly Mark and I think Luke said Jesus rebuked them all for doubting.
Yep.
Right?
But
and then Thomas was late.
It's all.
He also says that Thomas
in
wasn't
the
late.
But it's all in the Bible, right? We talked about this in the way people, like, in various cultures, community is, so even if it's 3 or 4 of the 10, it's all, right?
True.
And so
that's
so
true.
It doesn't necessarily mean that they all. Well,
Matthew says some, at least in my.
So Matthew. So I was going to say that Matthew does. Matthew references some, which means that it's more than one.
Right. So it wasn't just Thomas.
More than Thomas.
Right.
Right.
That's
He
what
didn't
I
say
thought.
all, but he did say it's more
Yeah,
than one.
yeah, it wasn't just
So
him.
yeah,
Thomas became the spokesperson.
correct. And the sacrificial lamb.
Of what not to be like. Don't be like him.
Yeah. But
Okay.
then even even if you go on further, John, in telling the rest of the story, starts to single out people by name for other reasons, right? He's like, well, it happened this way. It was Peter, Simon, Thomas, and Nathaniel were here, and we went out on anything, and these guys were here. So the part of the reason Thomas is getting identified like this is because of the way John is making his point and telling his story. Like
Was John friend with Stephen?
Thomas?
Was John friends with Stephen?
I don't know, maybe.
Stephen put everybody out there too. Like he was like
Yeah, because John goes on to talk about Jesus' whole conversation with Peter as well. So John in this end here is, I guess, using these individuals to make some significant points as well. So that's also another key thing in the writer tells the story according to the points that he's trying to make. And he doesn't just single out Thomas, he singles out Peter, and he calls the other disciples by name. He's doing this intentionally. What point is he making? Well, I was there, so I saw exactly how the exchange went down. And that's part of why you hear about Thomas, because John is revealing it this way. Had it been somebody else, you probably would have heard about him too. Right? So at least that's my thought. I guess the point I'm trying to make is one of the considerations in answering questions like the one you asked is who's writing, and what are they saying, and what else do they do in their writing that reveals to us about why this is why we're experiencing it like this as a Bible study lesson, and then compare to the other gospels and see what's similar, what's different, and what we can glean about it. Plus, we only have 4 gospels, right? So somebody else was to tell 3 or 4 other people were to tell the story. What other information would we glean? Right? Because from what I understand about Bible writing, that last section of Mark that we read wasn't in Mark's original writing. Somebody added that after. And most of the Bibles will say something like that. So they don't really, they keep it, but they annotate it and say, we think somebody added this after, right? And it almost reads like a summary of what Matthew said, right? But then you have the people who believe Mark was written first and Matthew used Mark's writings to pen out his writing, right? But then Luke comes afterwards and wasn't there at all, get his story, compile his notes from all his research as a doctor, and then he tells his story, right? So, they're all those kinds of dynamics at play. If we talk to James, what would James say? If we talk to Philip, what would his story be, So that is also a dynamic that's at play to answer your question. That's why I thought your question was so rich, because it allowed us to reveal all those kinds of things. All right, 11 to 15. Matthew 28, 11 to 15. And Maureen will pose a question after Courtney reads.
Matthew 11 to 15?
Matthew 28 verses 11 to 15. So it's the same chapter we were just reading.
Oh, 28. Okay, I got you.
As the women were on their way, some of the guards went into the city and told the leading priests what had happened. A meeting with the elders was called, and they decided to give the soldiers a large bribe. They told the soldiers, "You must say, Jesus' disciples came during the night while we were sleeping, and they stole his body. If the governor hears about it, we'll stand up for you so you won't get in trouble." So the guards accepted the bribe and said what they were told to say. Their story spread widely among the Jews, and they still tell it today.
Here we go.
No, so my question was, what did the disciples have to prove otherwise during that time? Like, if they're protecting the tomb and the tomb's empty, and the guards are telling everybody that the disciples came and got the body, and I know select people saw Jesus, but I mean, if I was during that time, I might have suspected they took the body myself. Like if the people holding the tomb said, "Hey, they came and got the body."
You know, there's one thing that's interesting with that, right? They used, I can't remember where it was mentioned, but it wasn't just the regular class of Roman soldiers that were guarding the tomb. It was like, the army ranger type dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And they swore oath to die before dishonoring a direct instruction of their superiors. So for them to be given an instruction to protect the tomb, the disciples come while they're
Unarmed, untrained for war.
untrained for war and get the body out, and they do nothing. They were supposed to be like hung from crosses and stuff or impaled or something themselves. And the fact that they're going around like, oh yeah, we just failed abysmally to even keep our oath. And people are like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, it's kind of like, me rushing into Floyd Mayweather and thinking, yeah, it's all good. I'll come out with these roses, right? So it's just
Yeah,
like this.
yeah, because of that was a big stone to move.
Right.
And it was sealed and guarded with a regiment of guards. The disciples couldn't have just come and steal it. They would have to overpower them.
Right.
Move the stone, take the body out, and people would have had bruises. There would have been fight marks, scuff
People would
marks,
have been dead.
right?
Because they swore with the fight to the death, and it's just like,
That story didn't make no sense.
yeah. And I think the Centurions knew it, which is why they were like, yeah, we'll take a bag of money to keep this story going.
I mean, but it makes them look bad though. Like
It
To
does.
who?
it makes them look bad if they're
To
these
who?
elite, if they're the elite, to the people.
Because
If
if you're
you're
the
an
elite
elite
of the elite,
warrior and you allow some disciples to take a body, and not only take a body, take out,
That's some disciples, some fishermen.
and tax collectors, that's like, what?
Fishermen and tax
And a doctor,
collectors.
and a doctor, right? It's like,
And a doctor.
jeez.
Fishermen and
A
tax
fisherman, a tax collector, and a doctor go to a
come
tomb.
and bum rush this squad and steal a whole body in the middle of the night, and all they do nothing.
Yep.
and then be the laughing stock forever because
Correct.
that's literally what that would be.
Yeah. You would have to say we was drunk and fell asleep completely.
Either way, you're probably.
And then if that is the case, then you're losing your job, you're losing your work, you ain't getting no pension,
Losing
all
your
that,
life.
and could potentially lose your life. Yeah.
There was something I was looking at this week though, where this guy who's an apologist was referencing some secular historical data that referenced Jesus. People documented meeting and seeing Jesus post resurrection, and he even quoted some stuff from this secular guy Josephus.
But he's
So
not secular. He's Jewish.
He's Jewish, right? But that he gave secular accounts, of people who had met this Jesus, this same Jesus, after he was crucified. So it's like, well, either the dates are all messed up, or they actually met the man post his death. So something had to happen. Yeah? But
they've seen the disciples work miracles, right? The people. So is it not possible they could have made it seem like they did one of their heebie-jeebie whatevers and rolled the stone away, put us to sleep, and took the body?
I guess that's the story. I guess that's the story they tried to tell, right?
yeah,
Like
they came and it was like,
I mean, because the people have seen them do miracles, so it wouldn't be so far.
Lauren, the disciples went all Doctor Strange and multiverse on them, right?
Bloop, bloop. Reach out and.
I mean, it's entirely possible, I guess.
Yeah. Oh man.
Because I was wondering if the disciples had to like defend. You know what I'm saying? Like
the disciples went into hiding.
Huh?
They went into hiding. They thought
they
they were going to get crucified next.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And they were hiding. They were hiding out. That's why they were all in the same place, because they was trying to, what we gonna do? And Jesus is like, hey, I tell you, don't stay in the city. Please go to Galilee. Meet me out in the country, please. Thanks. I tried to tell you that before I did. No, they're still hiding out here. Take a walk and meet me out in the bush. We go by the lake and eat some fish and thing, and we go talk away from all of this drama. But it was hard. They wasn't listening. They didn't believe it.
Even to sneak though, like you are the center of attention. Like, what's his name? Peter was like, "Aren't you the guy that's always with that?" Like, they weren't getting none of that energy when they was trying to hide, like trying to.
Yeah, that's why they were in the room. They was upstairs in the room. They was doing that. But they were in the house when Jesus came in. That's why they were kind of scared. But you know what's a good movie that kind of puts a good spin on it? There's a movie called Risen. That tells the story from the standpoint of one of the Roman soldiers who's experiencing this. Yeah. It's not available for streaming for free anywhere. It used to be, but you have to pay to rent it on Prime, I think, because that's what I did. But it helps to contextualize some of this experience and speaks to it in a really interesting way, as does AD. It started off as being the Bible. It continues, but I think it's called Kingdom and something now.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Kingdom and Empire.
Yeah.
You know what I wanted to ask before we close? Why did Jesus die? Why was he killed? Not why did he die. Why was he killed?
You're saying why was he killed from like historic or biblical?
Either. Why was he killed? It shouldn't. I don't think it matters, but it's historical. Books
There's no remission of sins, right?
So I didn't ask why did he die, because I'm changing my question. It's not why did Jesus die. The question was why was he killed?
Same reason Martin Luther King was killed.
Oops, oh boy.
I
agree that's the whole issue of covenant, right, Jared? Because we're the ones who make contracts now, but contracts imply that I don't trust you, and therefore I need these people to protect me. A covenant implies, because the way the covenant used to work, and keep me honest here, is basically if Jared and I enter into a covenant, we will both slay these animals and leave them in pieces on the ground. We would walk around it. We would then cut our hands and join it in blood and basically say, if I don't keep my word to you, to do whatever it is I'm vowing to do, may my fate be the same as this animal.
I thought Abraham or somebody rubbed on a thigh or something.
Covenant, this blood, I need to...
You do that as well, yes.
Right? So it's like, there's no remission of sins without that cutting up, which is why his death had to be...
That's why he died. Question was, why was he killed?
He was killed. I just said why he was killed.
Which is what?
Okay. Malcolm X, like
because man broke the covenant, so he has to pay the price.
I think he was just a walking,
because he was a threat.
Yeah, he was a walking rebuke to them and what they've been doing and how they've been carrying on.
I think I see what you mean. I think I see where you're coming from, Jared. Sorry,
He was a threat to the system.
Yeah. I only bring it up because of what we were talking about with the disciples hiding and whatnot, and what the actual dynamic is on the ground, and why it would be important for them to tell this fantastic story about the disciples stealing the body and whatnot. I don't understand what they were trying. While Jesus allowed himself to be killed because of all the things that Jerry just said about, the sacrifice and blood and all the spiritual reasons associated. That's not why the Pharisees tried to kill him.
It's crazy.
That's not the argument they use to justify them killing him.
Right.
Which is crazy because you killed somebody so you can maintain your servitude. Like you, we want to stay in our place.
We don't want our situation to get any worse.
That's what I'm saying. They want to stay. They like their place. They were like, if this is the place where we are, then this is fine with us. Because if Jesus, the way he was going, if we don't keep because our job was to keep the people, right? We were making money, we had power, we had all of that. The Pharisees had like all that. They had all of that, right? So they stood in between the people and the Roman Empire, right? And so they were just, I mean, as far as they're concerned, they were happy where they were, and their job was to keep the people subdued.
Yes and no. So they were comfortable. I wouldn't say they were happy.
Okay, so I won't say happy, but comfortable.
But comfortable in the standpoint of they were able to kind of have their religion and do their kind of thing, although they were under the threat of these people. And they really wanted the people to be gone. That's why they're looking forward to this Messiah. But if Jesus really is a king in the way that he was portraying to be, and they understood the Messiah to be, the Romans wouldn't have that. And whatever little bit of freedom they did have, the Romans would come in and take. And they were trying to keep that from happening because they didn't want to go back into that kind of exile type of living. You know, they now kind of finally get the temple back up and they have a little bit of leeway. They have to deal with this discomfort and this, and they didn't really like it. And the Romans was taxing them heavy and they was taking advantage of them. But that and nothing, that better than nothing, and that better than being completely obliviated. Because if
they still had power. They still had their power,
and they still had power as well.
Right, but wasn't there a hint of jealousy from them in terms of they didn't have the admiration of the people that Jesus had? So they have this power, you know, this position, but
Maximus.
The people weren't seeking after them in that same way. I think they had a problem with that part too.
I think they did have a problem with that as well.
And he
wasn't it mentioned somewhere though when it came to the whole thing with Judas and the pieces of silver and whatnot, that they did actually say something to the effect that, you know, basically if Jesus were to keep at this, that he would get too much power. And of course, they saw him getting power at the expense of theirs. You know what I mean? So it's like they have this grip on power to a degree, and if he comes rising up 3 ranks, then he usurps some of their authority and their power, and it's like, we need to deal with this. Lest the people,
their system
got to die.
Tradition, they were in power per se, but
what's that?
Because of their tradition and their system of that, they had that power. But he was coming along and affecting the people in a different way. He was causing people to follow him, not because of his rank in society per se, but it was something else.
So if we go to John 11. You get a good peek into what they were thinking, because John kind of captures it kind of nice and neatly. John 11. You can read from verse 45. And this is after Lazarus is raised from the dead.
Okay. Many of the people who were with Mary believed in Jesus when they saw this happen, but some went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. Then the leading priests and Pharisees called the high council together. "What are we going to do?" they asked each other. "This man certainly performs many miraculous signs. If we allow him to go on like this, soon everyone will believe in him. Then the Roman army will come and destroy both our temple and our nation." Caiaphas, who was the high priest at the time, said, "You don't know what you're talking about. You don't realize that it's better for you that one man should die for the people than for the whole nation to be destroyed. He did not say this on his own. As high priest at the time, he was led to prophesy that Jesus would die for the entire nation. And not only for that nation, but to bring together and unite all the children of God scattered around the world. So from that time on, the Jewish leaders began to plot Jesus' death. As a result, Jesus stopped his public ministry among the people and left Jerusalem. He went to a place near the wilderness, to the village of Ephraim, and stayed there with his disciples.
Go up to 57.
Hmm?
Go up to 57.
57. It was now almost time for the Jewish Passover celebration, and many people from all over the country arrived in Jerusalem 7 days earlier so they can go through the purification ceremony before Passover began. They kept looking for Jesus, but as they stood around in the temple, they said to each other, "What do you think? He won't come for Passover, will he?" Meanwhile, the leading priests and Pharisees had publicly ordered that anyone seeing Jesus must report it immediately so they could arrest him.
Right. So yeah, maybe in their hearts they had that whole, lust for power, but their lust for power was being camouflaged at the very least, or being articulated through an attempt at nobility to preserve the people and the nation. Because, here's why it's crucial. Because Jesus was claiming to be the Messiah. The Messiah is a kingly type figure who, if he's coming from the line of David, is the king of the place and therefore not subject to Caesar.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why when they went to Pilate, their argument was, this man is claiming to be the king of the Jews. We don't want no trouble with you, so we're giving him over because the people are going to follow after him. And if they do, this is going to be a problem for you all because we're going to now be trying to get independence from you guys. And that's why they said, we have no king. Do you want us to kill your king? And he's like, we have no king but Caesar. That idea of the kingliness of Jesus is crucial to the idea of the gospel and to why Jesus is now being killed.
Mm-hmm.
And so why the people developed this following and started to build this whole lifestyle, because they started saying, now Jesus is Lord and we only have allegiance to Jesus. Right? That's why this movement became a problem, because it had the makings to become a dissident type movement, which is why Jesus' emphasis for it was always this love thing, so that they couldn't be, part of that whole throw up in arms. That's why he didn't believe in the whole zealot thing and taking a sword and going and fight to liberate, right? That's why he would tell them, let the Romans make you carry the stuff for 2 miles and you carry it an extra step, because that's not what he was on. But that's what they understood it to be, and that was his significance. And that king idea is really crucial to how they understood what Jesus was about. Although he was redefining king, and it's what contributed to his death. And so it's not a small matter. It's why the Jews were initially persecuted, because they became seen as a threat to the Romans. Because they kept saying Jesus is their king. And now they're giving allegiance to this guy instead of to Caesar.
But I always have a problem if they're always I guess there was an elusiveness to Christ. At times he would not show himself, but there are times where in our reading where they could have came and arrested him, but they didn't want to do it in public or do it where the people could see him.
Yeah, because the people ain't gonna be happy.
The whole thing was like, you got to control the people.
Correct, because if they start to riot, then you know what is going to happen? If the people start to riot about this, what's going to happen? The Romans going to lock it down.
Romans will come in. Mm-hmm.
You lose your power and your influence.
So yeah, you had to do it in a way that you deal with it, you put it out. Oh, he's dead. What are you going to do now? It already happened. And we didn't kill him. The Romans killed him. Yeah.
Right.
Deal with them. Let
Right.
So it was a smart plan, even though it was foolish. It was
Yeah.
logical. It was logical. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Logical. Anyway, we are at 10 o'clock. The only reason I raised that question about why was he killed, because my own experience has been that whole the role of Jesus as king wasn't as emphasized to me when I was understanding this whole gospel thing. And because of how crucial it was to his death, to the disciples' understanding, to their own experience with it before, after, and during this experience, it even defines what we were talking about before in terms of first commandment, right? And if now he is king and I have this allegiance to him in the same kind of way that God wanted from the children of Israel and what we were talking about with Hosea. And so it just kind of ties in, and Jesus comes around to give us this new way of doing the same thing that God wanted from the beginning, right? And that is kind of the central idea of the gospel, that we give this allegiance to God through our allegiance to Jesus in the same way that God was asking of the children of Israel. And Jesus comes to love on us the same way Hosea did. He chose that prostitute and said, that one, right? You come here. All right, and then he just chose to love on.
Really? Really? Couldn't resist it? Couldn't resist it?
He couldn't. He could.
Yeah. I mean, but that's what he says about Israel, right? Israel, I have chosen. He could have chosen any family out of the earth, and he chose this one.
Yeah.
Almost in the same way Hosea went and chose the girl he chose, and then he loved on her the same way that Hosea loved on the woman. So, and I would even dare say the same way God decided to make man in his image and then have that same kind of commitment to man, right?
Yeah, we saw it all through history.
Yeah. It's like the same story over and over in different forms, right?
Yep.
If we don't get it after a while, something wrong with us.
Yep.
All right, takeaways. Courtney, we'll start with you.
Oh man, this based on everything we talked about, I think I'm thinking a lot more about we were talking about in Hebrews chapter 3 with that every day. Just a reminder, I think again, not to forget in the midst of trying to in the walk that you're trying to do every day with the Lord, and hoping that there's a maturation in that relationship, to still have some concern about my neighbor, my loved one, making sure to maybe correct them gently about whatever it is that they have going on, or even help them with those things. Pray for them. That's something that I encourage myself and everybody. Like, hey, don't spend so much time in prayer just praying about you and what's going on with you. Like pray about other people.
Word. How about you, Lorraine?
Basically similar to what Courtney just said. But another thought I had, I was like, I hope somebody will take this one clip and like take it isolated. Like, yeah, this is what she said. But thought was,
100%.
I'm a whore too. Like, I'm an adulteress. I mean, like,
we're taking that clip.
Like, see?
100%.
Out of context. Yes.
Yeah.
Out of context. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, the choices I make. I mean, I genuinely try my best to make right choices, but I still do things that I know God is not pleased with. And I do it and I justify it sometimes. And sometimes I just don't care, if I'm being very honest. I'm just like, guys, you know me. So you gonna let this look fine. Yeah. And that sucks because I'm like, thinking about Hosea, I'm like, I have a limit. I mean, he has a limit too, but his limit is a little bit longer than mine would have been. And so I guess I appreciate, him coming back and coming to find me and take me on trips and wake me up in the morning and give me blessings still that I do not deserve in any way, shape, or form.
I got you. Jerry?
Kind of feeding off of Lauren's point.
You're a whore too, Jerry?
Yes, man. But the thing for me is, it's like realizing that I could get to the point where I get so steeped in my ways, I make it impossible for me to go back. And that is I guess that is where the work out your salvation with fear and trembling type code comes in, right? Because it's like you could screw yourself over with this because he's gonna keep coming after you, but your heart could become so hard you're like, nah, I'm good, nah, I'm good, nah, I'm good, and then so it's really keeping yourself in check and submitting to his overtures, as it were. Yeah, that's it for me.
I'm gonna go next because you just helped me with mine.
Okay.
One of the things that came out of our conversation is keeping yourself in check usually involves being in community.
Yep. Oh yes.
If you want to really be good, effective at keeping yourself in check, you can't be out there by yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be one of my takeaways. The other one is the other two are when I consider how much of a whore I am, right? And how patient God is with me, it's very difficult for me to then look at somebody else and hold them to a higher standard. Yeah, it makes me a little bit more patient. And then the last thing is God's intentionality as to coming after me and go and love your wife again. that softens the heart some. Well, I wouldn't say some, in a big way, and not just me, at least closer to allegiance and commitment in a way that the intellectual stuff does not. So that's my takeaways. Kenneth?
My takeaway. I mean, I don't know why we're all on this whole topic, but the
You're not with us?
Apparently
no. I mean, no, I was.
You out there by ourselves?
I think I said it before. Like I think I'm a whore. And
he said it so eloquently.
from like a intellectual. Like I know I am, but I never.
You're cheating emotionally. You're not cheating physically.
Well, no. So that's the thing. Like I think I said it earlier. Like I never really view my actions as like ho-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's so as we were talking, it was really like checking me. What? You don't want to. Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Jared,
my takeaway from my T-shirt. That's my sister,
okay.
by the way.
That's his sister.
my takeaway from my T-shirt is that Jesus loved them hoes. But so I was gonna, but so that was gonna be my
great T-shirt. Oh my God!
But
that is a great T-shirt. I would wear that.
But I don't view myself in that way, and so part of my takeaway is being able to really, through study, really look at myself because I'm telling mommy. Oh, I'm 43 years old. But don't tell her. But being able to really, it's key that we view ourselves that way. I mean, 'cause the Bible talks about like even our righteousness is as filthy rags. Like I mean, we're there's nothing that we offer, you know, and it's only by the grace of God. And so all of that is so that's kind of where I was. It's don't be don't take it from an intellectual standpoint. Like you actually gotta live it, believe it, and operate, with the understanding um that you're not worthy. Like this is who you are, and only by the grace of God can you be saved. So
Hmm. He's committed to the relationship anyway. Audrey said, in encouraging others to be doing what we believe to be right, it helps to strengthen my walk and living. We all need to be encouraged daily, reminded of our purpose.
Mm.
Thank you, Audrey, for that.
So,
All right. Well, thank you guys for this conversation, for the insights, for perspectives, even the humor. I appreciated it. Anybody is volunteering to close us out in prayer? Oh, before we do that, Debbie, the bishops, the Queen Bishop, the bishop says, "Iron sharpens iron," and knowing that I am that whore, that God is always merciful and wants to save me.
Yep. Jesus loved him. Huh? Sorry.
That's a great T-shirt.
I am getting it printed. I swear.
wow.
I might be disfellowship.
you just gotta put the Bible verse at the bottom just to
Yeah,
give it
that's it.
context.
Yeah.
Or on the back.
On the
Whatever.
Yeah.
In small lettering.
Shock factor. Put the verse on the back. Leave it on the front.
Karen, what was the one about the dross? Drop dross?
Drop draws.
Yeah,
Drop
drop
draws.
Yeah. Drop draws.
There's been a bunch of them.
Yeah. I didn't know why we didn't write them down. Yeah. I'm gonna start making notes. We could start a line.
We're gonna start a line.
Yeah,
Water for
hey,
the thirsty. The
course.
WFT line.
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, so it's drop
You
draw.
got dudes out here making $11 million a month off of t-shirts. Come on now. Come on now.
What was that one you said, Kerry? The one you said, don't we keep in? Jesus love them hoes.
Jesus love them hoes.
Yep.
And
When
the
y'all
one
talking, that's
that
all that
has-
came to my head. Like I was like,
All right, cool. I'm gonna keep this book next time. So we could,
can't be a book, man. We need to be a business plan.
I'm saying.
well, yeah, let's at least write down the ideas in the book.
Oh, 100%.
Draft the business plan, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Anybody wanna try to close us off?
I'll go.
All right.
Yep. Father God, we thank you again for community, for being able to understand not just what the word says, but what the word really says. We pray that you give us the encouragement, the empowerment to be doers and not just hearers of your word. Amen.
Amen. All right. We here every first and third Friday. So that means we're here the third Friday in September, which is
17th? No, today's the 2nd, so it'll be the 16th.
All right, yeah, the 16th. Here on September 16th. And then we're not here again until the 7th. I think this week has 5 Fridays. So it'll be 3 weeks before we come back again in October. But yeah, so if you don't already have a copy of the reading plan and not reading with us, go ahead and do that. If you'd like to be able to join the conversation, feel free to hit us up. We have space on the platform, so anybody who really wants to participate or join the conversation in real time, we can do that. Um, and until then, until the next time, I encourage you to drink up, drink deeply, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Later, everybody. Drink up.
Drink up.